Hello and welcome back to VGC for this reviewers roundtable of Gran Turismo 7. I am Jordan Midler and today I'm joined by driving expert Chris Scullion. He's the Jeremy Clarkson of racing games, if you ask me. How you doing, Chris?
No bad, more than Jeremy Kyle. Um, yeah, I'm doing okay. It's going to be an interesting discussion, I think.
Yeah, I think it's weird because with Gran Turismo 7, you'll have seen the reviews by now, you'll be able to read my review, and a lot of the sentiment that I've heard is the driving is excellent, but all the stuff around it is so incredibly confusing and needlessly convoluted that it kind of makes the experience of getting to the driving almost not worth it. How have you found your time in the game so far?
Yeah, kind of the same. I've found nights where I've kind of struggled to decide if I'm going to play Gran Turismo tonight because it feels like such an effort to actually play the thing, because there's so much nonsense going on around the actual
Yeah.
driving. Yeah.
It's probably worth setting up that we're specifically referring to in the progression of the main kind of campaign. You're tasked with going to this like literal cafe over and over again to collect these menus, as in like a menu you would order food from, but it's a menu of cars. And
Mm.
from that menu, you have to progress through races and collect those cars for this like disembodied head that just talks to you in text. There's no dialogue, and it's all so strange. How did you find that kind of when you first like we spoke about it as we're getting it, you played it a wee bit, you played it a day before me, and we spoke about it
Yeah.
as we're getting into it. How did you find that, and at what point were you like, okay, when does this part stop? When are you going to just let me like drive the cars?
That was exactly it. Because at first I was like, okay, this is a tutorial. This guy's just you just turn up at this cafe. Basically, the world map, it unlocks different locations as you go along, and the cafe is one of the first ones you unlock. So you go to this cafe in the middle of nowhere, where it turns out that pretty much everyone in the world of motor racing just turns up for a laugh whenever they feel like it. And this guy is there and goes, "Oh, you like motors? I like motors. Why don't you go and collect some cars for me?" You're like, okay. And then so you collect a couple and you go, right, this is a tutorial, this is fine. And then you go back and he says, right, now go and get these ones, now go and do this. And you're like, wait a minute, this is the game.
Yeah,
This is the thing, is me going back to this cafe. I'm starting to wonder if like the whole plot is that you're dead and this is some sort of you've crashed your car and you're in a car accident and you're in this kind of car driver's limbo, like before you go to heaven or hell, and you've got to collect all the cars you never collected while you were alive. That's my
it
theory.
feels so kind of like the impression I got was it wants to make sure that you are so into cars before you even touch a car. Like it has to be convinced that you deserve to play this real driving simulator.
Yeah.
Whereas like I feel like in the previous GTs there was that element of it. Like it has that reputation of being a sim, but it wasn't quite so esoteric. Like the
Yeah.
even from the menus feel like something out of like a PS3 game. Like it's also it's like a fake cursor that you're going around this like weird
Yeah.
almost web interface to get to everything. Like it also reminded me of, you know how in GTA 5 that when you go on your phone or on a computer and you like buy cars from like a fake website, like it
Yeah.
felt like that, but it's a modern 2022 game. That's
Yeah.
kind of the, oh, there's my camera away. That's kind of the annoying bits of it, but I do think that the more I played with it, the more I really liked the actual racing mechanics. How did
Yeah.
you find them as someone that has obviously played a lot of Forza?
Yeah, the racing mechanics are fine. They're exactly what you would expect from a Gran Turismo game. They're slightly more, I say realistic. It's not like I've got a lot of experience driving like like overpowered sports cars, but and racing cars. But it feel the handling's a bit heavier. You know, like in Forza, you can swing the cars around corners a bit more, whereas Gran Turismo really puts more emphasis on no, you need to brake
Yeah,
really early and you need to turn slowly to make sure that you're in your line up before you put the accelerator on and stuff like that. So it's more realistic in that regard. But yeah, so in that respect, the racing itself is totally fine. I wouldn't say it was anything remarkable,
mm,
but it serves the purpose it's meant to serve, and in that respect, it's a success. It's just everything else.
yeah. I certainly found that, and obviously, like it's easy to theoretically compare it to Horizon because that's the most recent like big kind of racing game, but it's much closer
Yeah.
to a motorsport. We've not had one of those on the modern consoles, so
Yeah.
this is kind of um the most kind of high profile kind of sim compared to other racing games. Obviously you recently played Grid Legends.
Mm.
How does it really compare to that in terms of because it feels like there are a lot of racing games to choose from now, when there used to be, at least for a period, there was a bit of a downturn. But now you have like Forza, you have this, you have
Yeah.
Dart 5, which launched on the consoles a year ago or so. What's the kind of comparison there?
I mean, in terms of the actual in on the road racing, it's better than those, obviously, because it's more polished. It looks better. The handling feels more realistic. But all these games kind of suit their own individual needs and their own individual purposes, depending on what people are looking for. And like you say, like especially back in the day when Gran Turismo 1, 2, 3 first came out, there wasn't really anything to challenge it, and it was like it stood head and shoulders above everything else.
Yeah.
This is the realistic one. These are all the kind of arcadey ridge racery ones. But nowadays, like you say, you've got this, you've got Grid, you've got Forza, you've got Project Cars, you've got that Italian one I can never pronounce. You've got loads of like different alternative racing games out there, and Gran Turismo still has a status as like the pinnacle, but I'm not really sure that is the case anymore. It's a very good racing game, but it's one of
Mm.
many very good racing games now.
Yeah, I think the it'll come down to, will the Gran Turismo audience that have been waiting since GT Sport for this new entry latch onto it? Is it going to be everything that those people want, but potentially not people that really enjoy racing games, but from a variety of perspectives, not folk that exclusively are into racing games? Because it feels like it's not quite. Obviously, there's like iRacing on PC that is like built for people that have like full cockpits in their garage and stuff like that, and it doesn't quite go to that length. As you say, you can smash cars off the road and it doesn't penalize you. Like, it's not a Formula One game or anything like that. And there's like, I think there's like a lack of significant damage, and I believe that is because like the car manufacturers that work with polyphony don't like when their cars get absolutely like destroyed. So I suppose that's fair enough. But yeah, it's a really strange one. I'm not sure how much more of it I want to play outside of like maybe a race or two every couple of days. I felt like when I sat down to play it for long periods of time, it just lost my interest because it was doing the same kind of thing, even though it looks amazing and it handles really nice. I don't know. I just didn't feel grabbed by it. What about yourself?
But that's the thing. There's no variety to the progression system, and it's like it's not the sort of thing you can sit down for 4 hours and have a proper long session with. Whereas some like, and again, I know we're comparing totally different things, but Forza Horizon's the one everyone's been playing recently with multiple systems. And at least with Forza Horizon, you can go, okay, well, I'm going to do a bit of racing, then I'll stop. Okay, now I'm going to go and do some exploring. I'm going to try and find some of the signs to hit, and then okay, well, I'm going to do the photo challenge it gives me and all that. Here it is literally just go back to the cafe, get told what races you're doing next, do the races, go back to the cafe. This guy runs your life, and every now and then you'll go to the cafe and there'll just be like a random guy there saying, "Oh, look, it's so and so, some guy who designed a car back in the day." And then it's like this game is desperate to make you know about all the people that are involved in the world of cars, and like I would dare guess that 99% of the people playing couldn't care less.
No, I know.
And every 2 minutes it's like, hey, I'm from Japan, but I've lived in Italy for a few years now, and I've designed it. I don't care. What am I doing next? And even when you turn up to a race, the default where your cursor is when a race starts, when it loads up, and loading's really fast, that's one good thing. When the next race loads up, when you press X, you should go straight into the race. Instead, the cursor is by default sitting on one of the guys you're going to race against. So as soon as the race comes up, you go X, and some guy pops up and goes, "Hello, I won the Gran Turismo Championship 4 years ago, and I'm really looking for it." Mate, come on.
It's for the folk on the GT subreddit. They're like, it's him. They actually put him in it and stuff like that. And it's also like they do a lot of this history stuff, but the stuff they're imparting to you feels like basic to the point where if someone's pure into their cars, they'll be like, right, I know. Like it's the equivalent of in a WWE game being like, Stone Cold Steve Austin once cut a famous promo in which he said Austin 316. Like, to the point where people who don't really care about cars beyond their function of getting from point A to point B are just like, why are you telling me about the history of Japanese compact cars? Like, honestly, why? Like, please, I bought this racing game, let me just get on with it now.
It's like I was saying to you earlier in the week, it's the difference between going to see a Marvel movie on your own or with pals and going to see a Marvel movie with like the world's biggest comic book geek,
Yeah.
and every time somebody appears, they nudge you and go, "Hey, there's the Falcon. He first appeared in issue 23 in
Yeah.
1970." Mate, I don't give a shit. I'm trying to watch the film. It's that. It's like I'm trying to play the game. I'm trying to do the racing bit of this real racing simulator.
It almost
And
feels like it needs like an option at the start where you can just like click it off and just be like, I don't want to hear anything about the history of these cars. Just let me get to the racing bit.
I just want to race. The thing that summed it up for me, and it kind of it summed up to me who I think the game's audience is when few hours into the game, maybe 5 6 hours into the game, you unlock the ability you unlock this legendary cars shop where you go and you can for every day they have a kind of rolling kind of variety of 4 cars I think you can choose, and they're all the kind of fancy cars. And I took a note of this in case I forget it. When you get to the legendary car shop, you are greeted by Mikhail Haggerty, the owner of Haggerty Car Insurance in Michigan, and you're like, wow, like I'm playing a racing game, and literally one of the characters in this racing game is an insurance salesman.
Yeah.
That's how dry this is. Whereas, and again, I'm not, I don't care about, I'm not a big petrol head, so maybe that's why I'm not the target market. But even the older Forza Motorsport games, I'm talking a couple of entries back, you had the guys from Top Gear in it, and I don't care about Top Gear, but I get that they're more fun than an insurance salesman slightly.
Yeah.
And when you would start some races in Forza Motorsport, you would hear actual racers talking about each track and what racing means to them and all that. And even as someone who didn't care less about cars, as the game was loading, you were hearing these people saying, "Oh, for me, the Polo," and you're like, "Oh, I quite appreciate your insight. Thanks very much." Whereas this is like just Wikipedia pages being thrown at you in text form at the bottom of the screen, and you're like, because nobody talks like that. Nobody turns up and says, "Oh, I see you've got the Dodge Viper 1980 whatever. Did you know that was the first 28 VHP?" No, nobody talks like that. Nobody
Yeah.
just. I don't care, mate.
Yeah, it's a bit of a strange one, but for a more in-depth review, you can check out my written and video review on VGC. And until next time, thank you, Chris, for joining me to talk about this
Thank you.
strange game. And
It's a
be sure
weird
to
one.
subscribe to VGC for more reviewer roundtables like this, and check out some of our previous entries, like one for Elden Ring and Horizon Forbidden West. See you later.